Good evening, everybody. I know I said earlier that I was going to do a video, and I finally posted doing it hours later. This is my favorite books of 2018. It's hard to believe 2018 is, well, some parts of the world is. It'll be 2019 in London right about now. Actually, in about an hour. Let's see, there's anything good on TV yet. Most of these books are on my phone. I have a lot of books, obviously, but not all of my favorites. I'm gonna list like the top 10 or so, maybe more. I'm trying to record like every thing for New Year's. Sorry about the pause there, guys. Here we go. I'm going to start with my most recent book. It's by, everybody knows who Malala is. She was the girl that was shot by the Taliban in 2012 and now lives with her family in London. She wrote a book, and most recently her dad wrote a book. And it's pretty great. I mean, she's now 21, and she went to college in the UK, which is awesome. She went to Oxford. And is doing well, thankfully. So is her family. I mean, it's been hard for moving away from Pakistan, but she had to. Pakistan didn't have what she needed after she got attacked, and so they had to take her somewhere safe, and London was the only place she could go. Pakistan doesn't have good tools to fix her up. It's like a car or something. My next favorite book is Brutally Honest by former Spice Girl Mel B. Scary Spice. I found out about this book on Instagram. I'm hoping that the Spice Girls will be touring soon to be this year. I've always been a fan of Mel since her Spice Girl days. I mean, it was 20 years ago. Makes me feel really old now. And I mean, it talks about her life and her Spice Girl days, and in the last decade she was in a very bad marriage, and thankfully just recently got out of it, and is happy for the first time in a decade. I didn't know that she was going through all that at the time, but I applaud Mel for getting out of all that awfulness, hopefully. The next book is, of course, J.K. Rowling's The Crime of Grindelwald, which I saw in the theater. It's awesome, and yeah, okay, it is Harry Potter after all. I mean, I'm not going to put that in favorite books, but, there's so many to pick from. The next one is Philip Petit, who walked across the World Trade Center in 1974, I think it was. I mean, it's a pretty great book, but I can't imagine walking across anything that tall. I said World Trade Center, what this once was. It's that time fast. The next is called A Girl About Board the Titanic by Eva Hart. She is not alive anymore, but she was on Titanic when it sank, and her father did not survive on the ship, but she did, thankfully. And she didn't talk about the ship for so long until basically until he made a movie on it years later. And And I mean, it happened that long ago, and I mean, she became is it magistrate? Is that the right word? In the UK for back in like the 50s or so, after the war was over and stuff. She needed something to do besides, you know, dealing with the loss of her mom and years after the ship sank and all that. You know, the PTSD after that. The next book is City in the Sky, The Rise and Fall of the World Trade Center. I mean, basically, most of it's about building those buildings. And yeah, 9/11 was mentioned in there. I mean, heck, it's mentioned everywhere in the universe. But it's, took 4 years to build and a dozen seconds to come down, unfortunately, on a fateful September morning. I mean, I was a senior in high school when that happened, and so I was watching it live on the show. Next book is The Princess Diaries by the late great Carrie Fisher. This was her most recent book that came out like a few years ago, because obviously Carrie passed away in 2016. So 2 years and a few days ago. I'll be saying 2 years went along, I know. I mean, it was a great book. That woman went through a lot of stuff, you know. Next is 41, Portrait of My Father by George W. Bush. His father was recently just passed away, of course, and it's a great book. I mean, his book, what's it called? Decision Points is also amazing, and so was Laura Bush's book, and Jenna Bush and Barbara Bush, the twins, are great books too. The next one is Melissa Explains It All by Melissa Joan Hart. Everybody knows her from Clippic. Clarissa Explains It All, and Savannah the Teenage Witch, and other stuff. And then Let's Roll, which is written by Lisa Beamer, whose husband on 9/11 was on Flight 93 and was trying to take back that plane, and you know, we all know what happened when Flight 93 crashed. Once again, I Am Lala. Sorry to pronounce this girl's name. But, you know, she's a hero. Trying to stand up against the Taliban, and by not wearing her face, not having her face covered, which is against the rules over there in the Middle East. But she didn't wear it. And, you know, I'm proud of her. Probably would have done the same thing. That's probably why she got hurt in 2012. And I mean, it's been over 5 years. You know, she really thinks, well, I guess it would be Allah every day for surviving that. The next 2 books are by Dana Perino, who was George W. Bush's press secretary after 9/11. She joined the team, and she replaced late Tony Snow in 2008, and like shortly before the economy tanked in 2008, is that right? Is that when Tony passed? I don't know, but she wrote a couple of great books. The next one is Life for the Sprinkle of Glitter, which is by YouTuber Louise Borland. The next one is A Sick Life by TLC, the band. She bought it herself. She wrote a book and it's great. And the next book is A New Model by Ashley Graham, the model. Yeah, the Bush Twins book is called Sisters First. Let's see. Well, it's the Walter Isaacson Steve Jobs book is pretty great, even though it's kind of long. But the next one is Where Am I Now by former actress Mara Wilson, who was in Mrs. Doubtfire and I don't know. Was it Home Alone? I don't know. Well, the same guy directed those two movies, also did the first two Harry Potter movies. Oh, Matilda, that's what she was in, yeah. She quit acting in 2000. I mean, she's now 30 and she does stand up and stuff. And she has a blog, which is pretty cool. Oh, alright. I know I'm going to keep myself awake for the next, 7 hours. The next is Wildflower by Drew Barrymore. Everybody knows who Drew is. She's an actress, known for E.T., and she was in rehab at 14 and emancipated by the time she was 14. The next book is Sully. Everybody knows who Sully is. He landed the plane in the Hudson in 2009. Perks of Being a Wallflower. Everybody knows that. It was made into a movie with Emma Watson in it. And it's a great movie. The next one is by TLC star Whitney Thor. I Do With the Lights On. Oh, and one of my faves is Man Repeller by Leander Medine. That's a blog too, by the way, also. And she's great. I like her pictures on Instagram. The next book is The Diary of Anne Frank. And, everybody knows about Anne Frank. She was the girl who was living in hiding during World War II and unfortunately was found out by the bad guys, the Germans, and sent to a concentration camp. And her father was the only survivor, and the rest of his life, he had to deal with the loss of his wife, his two daughters, Anne and her sister, and the friends they lived with. Everybody knows what happened. The next one is Fault in Our Stars, of course, by John Green, and that was, of course, the movie with Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort. And yeah, I do like The Virgin too. I mean, I would say 4 is my boyfriend. I mostly say Johnny Depp because everybody knows who he is. Most important 4. The next one is Sensing the Rhythm by Mandy Harvey, who was a deaf. She plays the guitar in that. I mean, she can't hear, but she can hear in a way, And it's a pretty good book. The next one is Troublemaker by Leah Remini. She talks about, Scientology and how she left that in 2013. I just want to say I can't imagine being in that church. Crazy. The cult of craziness. And I mean, apparently Scientology has its own channel, which, I mean, it's not that bad, but I would never be in a million years. The next one is Holly Madsen, Down the Rabbit Hole. She was dating Hugh Hefner for years, and she left because, I feel like Hef couldn't give her a family like she wanted, and she went on to marry a guy, and they have a family, thankfully, but I don't think they're together anymore, unfortunately. The next one is, like I said, Divergent, written by Veronica Roth. One after that is Being Jazz by Jazz Jennings from TLC, who is transgendered, and she got recently on the bottom surgery thing, so she's now officially an actual woman. But she was born a boy. Yeah, I have to say Harry Potter, of course, by J.K. Rowling, of course. And I don't have all the books. I just have, what can I do actually? And I have Chris Child as well. And like I said, I have the real book of, like I said, Crimes of Grindelwald. Who was played by Johnny Depp, of course. I shouldn't say that I've not seen it. You should go see it. And my last book is Pirate at the Party by violinist Lindsay Sterling, who I just saw in concert on the 6th of December. And she's a violinist who dances and plays an instrument and now sings. She didn't start singing on her albums until her Christmas album came out last year, and then she re-released it a few months ago, I think. I have the book. But I gave it to my niece for Christmas, Christmas last year. But that's basically like my favorite books right now, and I would say there's more of that, and more books. And I would say naming them all is, I probably do want to do it. Some other, trying to look for other books that I like. I got Hunger Games. Who else are Hunger Games? I have the real books that I'm planning on donating soon. Let's see. The illustrated Harry Potter ones. Oh, and John Green's new book, which is, what's it called? Something with turtles. It's a great book. I have depression, so I know what it's like. Like the person in the book. I know some people probably haven't read it, but it is a good book. But those are like some of my favorite books. I'm not technically of the year because some of those books are pretty old. Harry Potter, for example. It's been out for 20 years now. As of, wait, didn't it come out in 97? I think it did. So I guess that's some of my favorite books of all time. Instead of favorite books of the year. I was trying to not mention Harry Potter because of stuff from this decade. It's from the 90s. May I just point out that J.K. Rowling denied proper child care until the 4th book came out in 2000. Now it's Goblet of Fire. By that point, there weren't any movies yet but they were casting, I think. The rest is history. The first movie came out a year later, and I don't know when they started filming exactly, but I need to look into that. But anyway, this video is getting long. I need to eat something. I had a little appetizer, but it's New Year's Eve. I need something to keep me awake for the next 7 hours. When I go to bed, it's usually 10:30, which is 11:30 in New York, which I do usually stay up till midnight our time, which is 1 morning in New York and Florida. Except for the Panhandle, I think, is in Central Time, but anyway, it's a different story. I do have friends and family in Florida, so any of them happen to be watching this, hello. And I just say Happy New Year, everybody, and I will see everybody. I need to do my Lindsay Sterling, what I bought at her concert video. Hoping that it's all around somewhere. I will see everybody very soon. Happy New Year, everybody.